Welcome to Dip into the Ink, the show where me and usually a friend talk about comic books. Today, I have the world famous writer, editor, podcast host, letterbox notoriety person, Diego Crespo. Diego, hi.
I don't feel like any of those signifiers are appropriate.
Well, how would you say your goal? Somebody has to write a bio for you. What would you put?
Uh, Writer, photographer,
I forgot photography. Fuck, your photography. I'm plugging his photography right now. It's Diego Crespo Grams, right?
Diego Crespo Grams,
Diego
yeah.
Crespo Grams on Instagram. Go follow him right now. I've been having like 30 consistent watchers, so all 30 of you go subscribe to Diego Crespo Grams on Instagram right now. But yeah, I wanted to bring Diego on for a very special thing for Ultimate Spider-Man. We're talking about it. We're both excited. Now, I think we both have very different viewpoints of Spider-Man, but what draws you to the character? What draws you to Spider-Man and Peter Parker himself?
That's interesting. I don't think we do have that different viewpoints of Spider-Man, but I'll say my thing and then you can do yours. I Spider-Man is my favorite superhero.
Mhm,
I think besides Superman, who is like the iconic like image of the superhero, the cape, the flying around thing, right?
mhm,
And last time I was here, we talked about Batman, who is probably just the most popular superhero, like, he's the guy who was always gonna be there, right? Spider-Man's the other one. Spider-Man is the everyman.
mhm.
Spider-Man's struggles are not interesting when he's fighting aliens or Thanos or whatever, that's stupid, that'd be ridiculous to do that in a movie or whatever, that'd be a waste of time
Oh my god,
and our
let it
goddamn
go. Let it
respect.
go.
Um, Spider-Man's interesting when his struggles are, "Hey, how do I get to work on time? How do I pay my rent? I don't know how to balance I don't know anything about work-life balance. Um, how do I deal with being selfish? How do I deal with, um, not caring about myself and using that, like, as an excuse to care more about other people?" He has the relatable struggles, and he hasn't had that for a while in a lot of media. Um, I love this character a lot. Um,
You're a big Raimi head, right?
I'm a big Sam Raimi Spider-Man fan. I think that trilogy is fantastic. Obviously, 1 and 2 are superior, especially 2,
Mhm,
but 3, I think, is incredibly underappreciated, though very flawed, obviously.
mhm.
Um, and I think the ending, the final moment of that movie is really powerful, and also a very human moment, not a big triumphant, like, huzzah to a trilogy. It's the most heroic thing that we can all do is learn to live with the choices we've made and hopefully learn to forgive each other and ourselves for the mistakes we make along the way, which to me is so essential to the DNA of Spider-Man, a character who has been very flawed in the last 2 decades, especially maybe the last 3 decades. I don't know. I wanna shout out a Spider-Man podcast really quickly,
Cool,
that
go
90s
for it.
Spider-Man show.
I've seen them
Um,
on
that
Twitter.
90s that 90s Spider-Man show, my good friends Jack and Henry from across the pond, um, lovely, lovely people, um, and lovely, lovely show. Very fucking hilarious. Really funny, but I don't remember what issue it is, but Jack had mentioned that the issue before One More Day or, like, some issue before One More Day operated, like, essentially as the final Spider-Man story because it was just, like, a day in the life issue or
Mhm.
something like that. I can't remember which one it was, and it's fucking killing me. I'm losing all my cred right now,
It's
but it
okay.
was like, because One More Day, I think everyone kinda recognizes, like, that kinda fucked Spider-Man and Peter Parker for, like, ever.
Mhm.
It felt like, and now we have Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, and they've kinda taken up the mantle as the Spider People, which is great, and I love them, and I'm not, like, decrying any of that, but, Peter Parker is kinda my guy.
Mhm.
So I would like him to have a good story again, um,
And I think
which is
what's
why
so
it's really
interesting.
exciting to talk about today.
It is so exciting to talk about it. I'll try to be quick so we can get to the comic. But I think it's
Sorry.
I just know I want to make a note that I think it's so interesting that you said that he's someone who struggles and has a lot of personal issues. And I feel like people are afraid of having him address more personal, not personal, more adult issues. So it's always reverting backwards towards not necessarily like college, but like the fresh out of college, down on his luck. Like you can have someone be a step more established with their own personal life and still have them face troubles because it brings them new troubles. But comics is the thing that's just a weird beast where you want change, but not too much change. You want growth, but they can't grow too much. And no matter what you do, everything is eventually set back into place because they want to keep these heroes around forever. And I mean, no matter how big, I'm a Miles Morales head 100%. Love Peter. I'm a big Miles person, but no matter how big Miles gets, it's not like they're ever going to let him be the main Spider Man and let Peter Parker retire. That's just, there's this cyclical nature to comics that is kind of unfortunate to me that no one can ever really have established change. I guess I could be argued, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you're saying, and
Explain
I
it
agree
more.
with you.
Explain it more thoroughly because I feel like you have a
Well,
better phrasing for this than I do.
I don't know if that's true, but I definitely agree with you. Like, they're never gonna let Miles be the guy for too long as these certain people in charge of like Marvel Comics um have their say.
Mhm.
Because everyone knows about the mandate, like Peter Parker and Mary Jane cannot be married in the main timeline. They cannot be together, whatever, for very long, right? And it's always like we gotta set him back. This character cannot grow anymore, which is why I think people are so drawn to Miles Morales and why like there's this big debate last year on Twitter that was like, "Oh, Miles will never be the Spider-Man. He's a great
Oh.
Spider-Man, never the Sp-" and it's like right now he probably just is
Mhm.
because of his movies alone, plus the Insomniac games, which really put him in the great spotlight, games I really love as well. Um, and it's like, yeah, when you have stuff that good that consistently, basically in the last 5 years alone, like it's kind of his mantle right now, which is deserved, frankly, for a fictional character. If you can deserve something as something that's not real,
Yeah.
um, it's like, yeah, that's like fine and good, I would argue even. Because they dropped the ball with Spider-Man. Even like Venom to a point, like Eddie Brock. I think people really like Venom. I don't care for Venom very much. Some people didn't like that Venom was just a monster in the Insomniac game, and I was like, I think that was fun and good.
Yeah, it's like
That's
when you don't care
fine.
about a character. I know because I have a friend, Lewis, who apparently loves Boba Fett. I just found this out, and he hated the show. But as someone who doesn't care about Boba Fett, I never cared about Boba Fett. I was like, oh, this is cute, whatever, fun, haha. Like I didn't care.
Yeah,
So I guess
I felt the same way about that
about
show.
that.
By the way, I was like, yeah, it's fine. It has like no ambition, but it was good for that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, but back on topic. Today we are talking about
No.
a brand. Oh my god.
Okay. Okay. No. No. No.
I'm
Okay.
moving up the waffle press
Sorry.
right now. It's okay. That's because you and I can just ramble forever. But
Yeah. It's a
today,
problem.
it's I enjoy it. But today we are talking about Ultimate Spider-Man. Marvel is relaunching the alternate universe. For those who don't know, in the early 2000s, they did an offshoot where they could clear the board and have a new universe. Ultimate Spider-Man, Peter Parker, that version was a huge staple of that brand. It ran for an incredibly long time, I think until 2012, I believe, the Ultimate Universe. It was a huge part of Marvel. A lot of titles and ideas came from that, and they kind of shut it down after they did the modern day. There's been lots of Secret Wars, but sort of the modern day Secret War that happened, and now they're kind of bringing it back. And I think what's so interesting, we'll get more into this, but the way this was very much sold was older Peter with family becoming Spider-Man. Now, as I pull up, as we go through the pages, you feel free. I'm gonna
Mhm.
cut what I just said and just pull up the pages so we can look at them. Cause I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, for all those interested, if we're shifting our face around the screen, it's because we have the pages in front of us to look at, so we're just looking at that. But we're very simple cover, Ultimate Spider-Man. We get a little taste of the artwork, nothing too special here. So we look at this, cut to the next page, and we get our little explainer. 20 years ago, the Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting a young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed a secret council to rule the world from the shadows. When Tony Stark learned the dark history of his universe, he sought to undo it, prompting the Maker's Council to attack Manhattan, killing thousands and framed Stark for it. Peter Parker has lived his life unaware of the Maker's Council or the truth behind the spider, but that is about to change. Just the premise alone, what do you think of this premise? It wraps up because there was a mini series before this because there's a bunch of Ultimate books coming out, but there was a little mini series and this just kind of wrapped it up. But what do you just think of this quick premise?
I didn't know anything other than Jonathan Hickman's writing Spider-Man. I'm in.
That's why a lot of people grabbed
S
it because it's
yeah. No, because it's like I last time I was on, I talked about it. Like, I don't need to relitigate the whole thing, but like I don't read the big 2 comics anymore because there's just too much, and everyone says, "You could just hop in, it's how it always been." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the problem." Um, so I was caught off guard with this,
it's a lot. It's a
and
lot to throw at you really quickly.
yeah, just as like as a creative writer, screenwriter as well. Like I've had conversations with friends where it's like, that might be a lot. I know you want to always do something different. Everybody wants like the original story, and you can do that successfully. Sometimes it's like I probably threw too much in like at the start. Let me rework this. Let me massage this a little bit.
Mm.
This doesn't feel massaged. Um, and
It's a little crammed down
this
together.
leads to something just really quick. I'll just say my
Mm-hmm.
it's just gonna be a hang up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the best thing about this really, really exciting comic book, which is not something I would use to describe a Spider-Man comic in a very long time. um,
Oh my gosh.
a very, very long time. I'll say this right now. I'm gonna keep reading this comic series. I haven't done this in like a decade. So maybe more at this point. Um, but yeah, so I have a hang up. I could save the whole reasoning for it, but it's just
Is it now or will we
this
get to
is
it as we go through it?
I mean, I could just say immediately I'm just you're hit with like
Comic book nonsense.
comic book nonsense that is like this universe is different, but don't worry, it's still a different universe,
Mm-hmm. So
which
it's just different
is
enough, but still safe.
yeah, where it's like it's it's only different because it's not touching like the quote unquote true
Mm-hmm.
version, you know? But because that's like we're physically told that's the fabric of this story's DNA,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like not gritting my teeth and pulling my hair out. You know, I'm like, okay, this I can settle into this.
Mm-hmm.
Then my hangups are fine. You know, it's like it's a hangup, but it's Jonathan Hickman, so let's ride this through.
I will say there's something kind of ironic that the Maker is a character from the first alternate universe line. Evil Reed Richards, whatever. I was never too excited about him, but it's kind of funny that a character from the old line helps to kick off the new ones. That's kind of fun. But we
Mhm.
cut from this blank page. Writer Jonathan Hickman with artist Marco Ciccietto, colorist Matthew Wilson, and then we have all the credits right here. A lot of cover artists because they knew how big this is going to be. So they have a million cover
Yeah.
artists. And we cut to the first page, snowy New York, January. And then oh my gosh, hello, Peter Parker. Hello, Spider Man.
Yeah, Dilf Peter Parker.
Dilf Peter Parker. I wanted to check on Twitter if people have already coined it, and they already have. But we have a shot of a very older Peter Parker. He's like, Peter Parker, you're not getting younger. You know, the comic thing where they kind of just state their name outright. It's just the conventions of the medium. But I'm already so excited because a lot of Peter Parkers we see gets it as a young age, so it's just gonna be such a different experience. But he's staring in the
Mhm.
mirror. He's got the glasses on. We cut to another page where he's kind of getting ready for the day. I feel like this was drawn out to be somewhat cinematic. Like I feel like I'd see these shots in like a movie. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
way the panels are
No,
set
this
up.
is a very cinematic issue.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the imagery and like the ramp up. The dialogue is very comic booky, and I mean that as a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like I even caught myself thinking like, if you wrote this like in a screenplay, it's like death. But like, and that's like fine because they're different mediums. It's not a criticism. It's just like, wow, like that's really impressive. That I can tell this would bother me in that other medium.
Mm-hmm.
The original medium this character is born from, it is like perfectly acceptable. It's actually exemplary. But yeah, yeah, very cinematic
Yeah, I love that look.
introduction.
It's very nice. We
Mhm.
see him getting dressed. He puts on a wedding ring. We cut to the next page where he has two kids. I know everyone's been saying Peter Parker needs to grow up, have a family. Well, here you go. You can shut up now. He has a family in a very nice house. He has like a flat screen. He has plants. He has a bunch of shit on the wall. But he has his two kids, and we find out his kids' names are Richard and May, which is very cute. I don't. Is Richard shorthand for something? Was that his dad? Is that anything? Do you know? I don't know.
Yeah, Richard Parker is his father.
Oh, okay, so Richard and May Parker,
Mhm.
very cute. Uh, Mom made extra. He's getting some coffee. They're getting ready for the day, and then we see Hello Tiger. It's Miss Mary Jane herself.
Mhm.
She looks amazing, just like him.
God bless America.
God bless America.
Like that's not me thirsting over. I'm like I'm really happy that it's just like, oh, this is like you can just have characters live functionally happy lives, you know? Like not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but it felt like it felt like I it was filling a gap I really needed to be filled in comic book lore, which doesn't actually impact the quality of my life, but it was just
Mhm.
nice to see.
I know people aren't the biggest fans of fluff, but I just cute moments that kind of ground the characters into these safe little pockets I can revisit when they're going through hell is very nice. So I enjoy seeing them all kind of hanging out. It's the morning. We find out Peter didn't really sleep. Uh uh they're kind of having like a bit of tete-a-tete, like you couldn't or you didn't sleep. It's like a little bit of both. We see May grab like an orb. Do you remember those infomercials where they're like the fushigi, where it was like a little orb on the arm and the person like waved it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
It was like
No,
one of
when
those.
you say like, because there's those old infomercials I remember for like, oh, call your parents for like payments in 1995 to get like
Yeah.
those magic markers that
Mhm.
whatever. Like I'm thinking something like that.
Yeah,
Is that what you're thinking of?
100%. It was like the
Okay.
Fushigi for 4.99 for 12 months. You can get this orb that you can balance on your arm. I'll send a commercial to you. I don't know if it was called
Okay.
Fushigi, but that's the first thing I saw when I saw May Parker playing with some orb. I just thought that was very funny. I don't know. Uh,
I respect it.
but I love this little. It's very small. There's a lot of big moments, but it's just the way people talk to each other in this book I really like because you know, MJ is like, "Well, do you want to talk about it?" And he's like, "Yes, I do, but we're gonna talk about it later." And like, kind of the look she gives is like, "I kind of trust you to tell me what's going on, and I trust you to give you space." It's very simple, very quick things that kind of establish their relationship.
Hmm.
And
It's very economical.
yeah, very economical, which you have to be because the comic book is such a limited space, such limited pages. But he says bye to his family, and we head over to the Daily Bugle. We see Betty, we see J. Jonah Jameson, and what you reading this? We don't describe this page. What's your thoughts when you were first looking at this?
Yeah, everyone. This is the one everyone's talking about. I'm so glad I read this before being on Twitter too much
Mhm,
because this was everywhere.
mhm,
Um, I was like, okay, so like he's still working Daily Bugle. Like we're getting the status quo.
mhm.
And then, oh hey there, Peter. I'm like, oh, he seems nicer. Maybe he's gonna be nicer to Peter here, and he's just calling because he's like he does need something still because journalism, you got to be like fast and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then he's still calling for Parker, and I was like, what? Yeah. And then you get good old Ben Parker is alive and
Oh
kicking
my
in this
god!
universe. Um,
Mhm. I'm just so excited because his Uncle Ben, within so many of the Spider-Man things I've seen, he's become almost before Gwen was Spider-Gwen. He almost became more of like a symbol than like a character or person.
mhm.
And it's like, how do I live up to the idea of this person? So I'm excited to. I don't know if you've explored lots of different versions of Spider-Man, but this is the first time I ever see like Ben Parker as like a character, as a person, not just an idea for Peter Parker to keep in his head. But he's yelling, he's like Parker, and it's Ben Parker, managing editor of the Daily Bugle.
Yeah, I didn't cry when I saw this, but it did like kind of hit me where I was like, "Oh, this like this one decision changes everything." Because I've had sort of fears. I'm not gonna say what version because I don't need to be complaining about other stuff I don't like while I'm talking about something I do like. But there's other versions of this Spider-Man character around right now in certain mediums that I'm not crazy about, and they don't really reference Uncle Ben. Um,
Mhm.
and I have a hang up with that because the death of Uncle Ben is so essential
Mhm.
to Peter Parker's origins as Spider-Man. His failure that he has to live with for the rest of his life is what pushes him to try to be better all the time, even when he fails, in the future after that too. Um, so him being alive could be like it could kneecap the entire story you're trying to tell here.
Mhm.
But what they've done is what you were saying, like it's what they've avoided. Like he's not just a symbol. He's not like an empty myth. He is like a person here, and he has a life, and it has drastically. We see immediately how it shifted the world of Spider-Man. But even like, let's say like you pick this up as your first Spider-Man comic book ever, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck was that first paragraph about?" Anyways, but let's say you cut that out and you just jump into this, right? There's a narrative here that you're just kind of like following. You could understand that, like, hey,
Mhm.
he was not supposed to be calling that guy. He's talking to this other guy.
Mhm.
This is different. You just feel the difference immediately. Um, but yeah, Uncle Ben, like as a person, like his inspiration for Peter is like that he was such a good guy too, you know?
Mhm.
And we'll see more of it as we go through the panels, but yeah, they seem to have nailed that. Or Hickman and that team seem to have nailed that really well.
Uh, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, sorry. I was like starting to
No, no,
ramble,
I
but it
love
was just
I
like
why do you
a
think
lot.
I could have brought several people on. Why do you think I brought you?
Oh,
This
thank
is
you.
why I brought you. When I started doing this on YouTube and I saw the Hickman was coming out, I was like, I need to get Diego. I need to get him. I was like, you're my only choice. Well, that
Yeah,
and Lewis,
thank
but
you.
Lewis has had all other thing to do. So you two
No,
were
it's
my
okay.
only choices. But
Thank you. I appreciate that.
he said, Jonah, you don't have to yell. And he's like, I'm Jonah, that's what I do. And we cut to the next page, and they're just trying to they're having they're having a meeting with management, and they're talking about, oh, I know you got your thing, we can push it back, it's not a problem. And they have an appointment, and it's very cute that even when he's not a hero, Peter Parker is still late to everything. It's sort of like the Barry Allen joke where he's like, oh, you're always late.
Mhm.
And
There was
mhm,
there's something I really admire about that too, because it feels like everyone can also relate to that, where it's like even when you do like sort of over prepare and you're like, oh, I got time. I'm not gonna be late this time. It's like knowing you have more time ends up making you like rush even more, you
mhm,
know? And not that that's exactly what happened to this Peter Parker here, but it's like, man, even without the responsibilities of being Spider-Man, like this dude just
he's still a
he'll
person.
never be on time ever. Like that's just who he is in his DNA, you know?
I will say there's a cute moment in the dialogue where he's just like, "I was ready 15 minutes ago, Peter. Why are you late?" And Peter does a little hobbit, and he's like, "Well, it's probably because I was neither on time nor early." And I thought is that a Gandalf reference? Where it's like, I always arrive right when I
I think
need
it's a
to.
Gandalf reference,
I
yeah.
just thought it was. I thought that was cute, and they have a little thing, and then this was really cute. They Peter and his uncle are getting ready to go to things, and Jonah goes up to him and is like, "Oh, Peter, where's your tie?" And then Jonah takes off his tie and he gives it to Peter, and it's I don't know why it's the cutest thing. I don't know how to explain it.
It's really, really sweet. And this is something else I really responded to because right now, J. Jonah Jameson seems to be pigeonholed into just like a Spider-Man antagonist because people have only like really registered Peter Parker and Spider-Man as Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of material with exceptions, again, the Spider-Verse movies, the Insomniac Spider-Mans, but even those and the Insomniac Spider-Man did kind of lean into this first publicly that J. Jonah Jameson is just a Spider-Man antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
The other movies, the live action movies right now, have really positioned him as an antagonist, like straight up Alex Jones parallels,
Mm-hmm.
who is a real life antagonist. Um, and
Not the biggest
to
fan
me,
of that.
that's fine
Mm-hmm.
in spurts. I think it's more compelling and interesting if he's a hard nosed guy who's very stubborn,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately like will do the right thing. I think that's more complicated emotionally and narratively And so to see him be so
Like
open
tender. He's like tender
and
almost.
tender, yeah, because he knows what he's going through. Like, did you ever see you saw Spectacular Spider-Man, right?
I've seen some.
No, okay, you haven't. Okay, so you gotta watch that, obviously.
I've seen
Um,
clips.
but
I've seen clips.
there's a moment where something happens in Peter's personal life, and J. Jonah Jameson at first he's like really angry, and then he hears about something that's happening, and the first time I saw that, I was like really moved by it. In this little cartoon show where he's still like snapping his bed, he's like, "We gotta call Peter," and then he's like, "No, like I'll do it. I
Hmm.
want him to hear it from me." And it's like because he's taking responsibility because he's again stubborn. But he's not a monster, you know.
Yeah, he sticks to his principles. He's abrasive. He's very staunch. But at the end of the day, he is a newspaper man searching for the truth. And he can be really rough around the edges, but he does care about people. He can be kind and
Yeah.
nice. And I think,
Yeah, you know, I mean, like,
mhm.
well, I just want to say, like, even like the first Raimi Spider-Man, like, he's giving Peter like the hardest time ever, and then the Green Goblin blows a hole in his wall, and he's like, "Who's taking the
Yeah.
pictures of Spider-Man?"
And
And
he's
he
like, I don't
doesn't
know.
rat. He doesn't rat out Peter.
Uh-huh.
He's
And
10 feet
it's
away, and he doesn't do it.
he doesn't do it because he's a
So
good guy.
yeah, yeah, you know, like it's fine for him to be an asshole. Like,
Mhm.
it's sorry, but like people that are assholes to you can also be good to other people,
Yeah.
or even to you sometimes. Doesn't mean you have to like them, but
Yeah.
people are complicated, you
They're
know?
complicated, but it's
Yeah.
just I keep feeling the sort of emotion of refreshing while I read this comic. And it's just
Yeah.
refreshing to see like such a kind Jonah. And as he's helping him with his tie, he's talking about something that we know, but we haven't been revealed in the comic yet. Is like, well, your uncle, he has a hard time expressing his emotions. You need to keep an eye on him. And Peter's just like, yeah, I'll do it. And he's just gonna like, oh well, if you want to know how your uncle's doing, just ask him. Just be a person and ask him, which is a very human thing. But after that page, we cut over to snowy New York. They're still walking around, and this is our first real conversation between this version of Peter and Ben, where it's very interesting. I like this. I want to quote it in my daily life where uh Peter's trying to pry for information. He's like uh he's skirting around the question. And he's just like, and Ben looks at him. He's like, if there's something you want to say, don't hide your intent. Just go ahead and say it. Then everyone will respect you more because he did. So he's saying, like, Peter, just ask me what you want. Just be frank about it. And Peter's just like, I'm worried about you. Worried. That's it. Worried about you. And you haven't said anything, which is, I like this because it's telling me more about Ben because I don't know who uh, Uncle Ben is as a person.
Mhm.
And he's like, well, you don't tell me what you do, how you're feeling. And we go to the next page. And you know more about Spider-Man lore than I. Ben says that Peter was 15 when his parents died, and he came to live with May and I. Is that normally the age? Does the age matter? Is that when he usually comes live with them? Or
I think now that's like kind of referred to as like the standard thing. Like
Mhm.
again, like in Spectacular Spider-Man, I think he's 15. I'm pretty sure in the Insomniac games he's 15 when he gets bitten, and then he's like 23 at the start of that franchise. Like, I think that's just like it's an easy touchstone. People are like, okay, he's not too young, but he's not too old. Like 15 seems like the right age for a kid to start getting really fucked up in life, you know? Um, so yeah, I don't remember or I don't have knowledge of like the very first issue. I think he's actually older.
Mhm.
Or maybe he just looks fucking older because everyone looked older back in the 60s. Everyone's like on a pack a day by the time they're 13 back then.
Yeah, when you're 13, you
Um,
already look like you're 20. So,
yeah, yeah, and 20-year-olds look like 40.
and 40-year-olds
That's
are
not even
lucky
a
just
joke. Go
starting.
back and look at old movie stars, and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, well, like Humphrey Bogart must have been like 50 at the time he made Casablanca. Nope.
He
Um,
was like 29 or something.
he was like 19. No, no,
Oh,
that's a
that's
joke.
bad.
That was a joke. That was a joke. But yeah.
But
Anyways,
just a random factoid we get. They picked. We've learned Peter's age. We learned two things. Peter's 35 canonically, which is a. I'm younger than Peter Parker. I'm into it, and it's kind of hinted that May is gone. It's that weird kind of reversal where Ben is here and May isn't, and
mhm.
because May. Aunt May is very much sort of a rock for Peter, very emotional, and it's kind of touched upon here that May's better at the emotional stuff. I'm more like the old dinosaur who's stiff. Oh, who's gonna have a whiskey in my rocking chair and be you know. It's an
Mhm.
interesting role reversal, and we
Yeah,
find
I
out.
really like that too, because it's like, you see that Ben's a good guy in this world still, and he's still, like he's still a moral compass, but he himself struggles to open up, and I think that's a very common like, everyone talks about, like, toxic masculinity and stuff now because it's a very real struggle,
Mhm.
obviously, and I think that's an important subject for a character like Spider-Man to address, maybe not tackle head on. He doesn't need to fight, like, the toxic masculinator or whatever, but, it's just it's a part of the fabric of our reality, and it makes sense for an old guy like Uncle Ben to, you know, again, be a good guy, but, like, doesn't know how to say "I love you," maybe, you know?
Which is
Like
too real, Jonathan Hickman.
yeah.
Go
Like,
back to
you
yeah.
get hugs on Christmas, but maybe it's like he struggles to say, "I'm proud of you." I don't know that this version does, but, you get the sense that, yeah, he can't quite get all the way there,
Mhm.
you know? And I'm sure that the death of May, is gonna linger a little bit.
And I think it's interesting because May's his pseudo mom and Ben was his pseudo dad. And if we're gonna explore any father son relationships, if we're gonna see how Peter and how he treats his kids is any way reflected on him and Ben's relationship. I don't know if they're gonna touch on that, but that could be
Mhm.
very interesting. But they have this conversation like, "Are you okay?" Uh, I'm managing, and we find out that they're at a rally, and we see May Parker's on a memorial stone, and we also see Norman and Emily Osborn. So we got the Osborns are gone,
Mhm.
and we get a little visit from Father Matt. We got Daredevil as a pastor,
Father Matt
Father
Murdock.
Matt Murdock. I don't know if they're gonna do any Daredevil stuff. I have no idea, but he's a father, so good for him. Love that for him.
I I really like the Twitter memes that because maybe I should hold on to it because it's a spoiler for the revelation at the end of this comic. I'll hold on to it, but
Okay, we'll hold on to
we're
it.
gonna circle back to Matt Murdock because it's very funny what I saw.
But shout out to Matt Murdock. We have there are several panels here kind of showing how everyone feels, and there's a very nice one that I feel like I might use for my Twitter header, where it's the whole family together. Peter's holding his daughter, and they're all kind of standing there as a family, and it's very cute. And uh, Matt is delivering a eulogy, and he brings someone on board, Harry Osborn. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And what do you Harry gives like a bit of a speech where he's talking about loss and remembering his father. And this is just so interesting because he grew up with a father that was, as far as we know, never any association with the Green Goblin or anything like that. So he must have gotten, we assume, a relatively normal childhood. That's just very interesting. But what are your thoughts on this version of Harry as he takes the stage and gives his little soliloquy?
It's up in the air right now. Not quality wise. I like this being uncertain of who this Harry is. You know what I mean? Um, because I think a common, maybe not misconception, because this is all the end of the day, our interpretations of these characters are gonna be subjective of what we carry with us and what we take away from them.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I think Norman Osborn was a bad person before he became the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
That's sort of his get out of jail free card, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's I can't remember what writer said this, but someone was like, "Yeah, he's basically Norman Osborn in a Halloween costume." I mean, he's Donald Trump in
Yeah.
a Halloween costume, you
It's
know?
not that he turned
But
evil.
smarter,
It's
obviously.
just like the Green Goblin allowed him to go down a path he always kind of wanted to do. He
Yeah.
just
It's his,
exacerbated the evil there.
yeah, like, other villains have, like, genuine hangups, like, I always compare, like, the Lizard to, like, alcoholism. They think they need something to be better than they are, but everyone loves them for who they are already, stuff like that. And Norman Osborn's like, "I just
I like
like
being a
being a
shithead.
bully.
I
I
like being a
like
shithead.
being a shithead. I like being an asshole.
Mhm.
I'm gonna fuck up this teenager's life, you know? Like,
I,
because
a
I
41
can.
year old man, I'm gonna beat up this 17-year-old just because I can.
My favorite part of Spider-Man No Way Home was when Norman Osborn was like, I'm gonna fucking ruin your life, kid. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you and kill your aunt in front of you."
Oh my
And
god. And he
that's like
did.
a bad movie, but that's my favorite part where he's just fucking wailing on this
It has
kid.
its
It
moments.
yeah, that I really think that's a genuinely good part of that movie. But
What was
yeah,
it
and so
from?
for this Harry Osborn, it's like I don't know who this Norman was to him. Like what he's saying here
Mm.
might not be true just because of our preconceived knowledge of the Osborns. Is he putting on a front? Is he being honest? What possibility is scarier? I don't know, and that's very exciting to me.
And I do feel like there is something not sinister, but there's an edge to him because on the previous page,
Oh yeah.
Matt for our audience, Matt gives like he talks about like, oh, close our eyes and listen to our hearts, and we'll hear the angels sing. And in Harry's speech, he's like, I'm all alone in the quiet of the night, and the angels. I'm not hearing any angels. I hear a ball hitting a glove. I hear screams and sirens. I hear all of us crying out in pain because part of our future was stolen, and all we got in exchange were for memories, and it is not enough. And I'm not sure any of us should be expected to live with it. So he looks incredible. He kind of starts off like, yeah, or we gotta remember our family, but also I'm fucking pissed off. I'm
Mm.
mad. So we get a little hint of that in his speech. But on the next page, we get a bit more lore as the conference is over. Mary Jane's like, oh, Peter's actually like, you ever meet the guy? 'Cause they didn't grow up. They don't know each other apparently. And Mary Jane's like, yeah, we met once, but he seemed like a very much a different person. And I think what you said earlier about like not really knowing who anyone is, Peter says that about the father. He's like, my uncle interviewed him a couple times, but he never really got an idea of who Norman was. And I like that he's just like, you don't really know, and it's that excitement, that mystery of not knowing who these characters are, and I'm excited to see where that leads. But Peter's like, take the kids back home. I got things to do. And they leave him be. And we cut back to the Daily Bugle where they're having their big boardroom meeting. Peter and Ben return. And I love that we've seen our beautiful J. Jonah Jameson do two things: be very comforting, and then saying, "I quit. I'm done. I'm getting out of here." And he's throwing these papers up, and we are kind of like, what's happening again? Very cinematic. Like I could hear people in the offices go silent talking, like him looking at them as he walks by it. And as Ben enters the room, it's like, did I miss something? And Robbie, who is a Spider-Man character, he's often associated with the Bugle, he's like, we're getting editorial restructuring. Jonah didn't want to be a part of it, so he dipped. And you know what, I appreciate what Robbie says here. He's like, I'm 2 years from maxing out my pension, so I'm just not gonna, even if we're gonna fuck up with this paper, I'm not gonna rock the boat. And I think it's interesting because it kind of sets up more of the world we're in. And one of the things that they're changing with new people in charge is that the Bugle has done a lot of stories looking into this terror attack, and the new funders are not really caring for that coverage. And we go to the next page, and ooh, who is it? Who is it, Diego?
As Kingpin,
It's Kingpin.
Wilson
Oh my
Fisk,
gosh.
which is fantastic. Another fantastic reveal.
And it's something that's in character, but something I would never really think of, you know?
Mhm.
It's
And
kind of
it's
silly.
like, well, I just want to say like it makes you think like, oh, is Kingpin somehow connected to the Maker or
Mhm.
something like that? If he's like dissuading or not dissuading, stopping
Stopping
them
the
from
truth.
yeah, and like what's the deal with that? Obviously, that's not clear as we move forward, but we'll
What
get there. We'll
what
get
I think
there.
is fun is that it could be the Maker, or it could just be the Kingpin being an asshole. Like it could be either one. But Ben is like, "What are you talking about?" And Kingpin's like, I'm gonna promote you. Let's do it." And it's fun because we've talked about the art a little bit once or twice here. But just the Kingpin's face at the lower right panel is just so menacing. It's like
Mhm.
so like this is the bad guy. This is like the lines and the shading and the way it's colored. It's just I love it. I love the
Uh,
faces in this comic.
I always love when someone draws Kingpin, even if he's not like
Mhm,
cartoonishly large, like in that last panel, his head doesn't fit in the frame. Like Ben's kind of like going beyond his the top of his head too, but like Kingpin, you basically don't see as much of his torso. It's basically a close up, and
mhm,
I just love when he's like whenever artists draw him like too big for the frame. Again, even if he's not
mhm.
cartoonishly large, like to me that's also Kingpin. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that ultimate imposition.
And he kind of suggests like, oh, you can have the job if you learn to play ball. And of course, we have a whole page of silent panels where Ben
Yeah.
just he gives him a shit eating grin. He's like, "Fuck you guys, I'm out, I'm leaving." And he catches up to our favorite guy, and he's like, "So what are we gonna do?" And they give a smile, and it's just there's so little done here, but you can already kind of get the sense that they've been friends for decades. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, what are
Yeah.
we gonna get into now, Jonah? And we cut to another big page. We see the Kingpin getting out of a car, and there's this big explosion. And we find out, oh my gosh, it's the Green Goblin. My question is it Harry or is that like a red herring? It
Yeah, where
seems.
I'm like,
Mhm,
it feels like it would be too obvious.
mhm,
Like I trust Jonathan Hickman. Here's the thing. This series would have to do a lot to screw it up with Jonathan Hickman at the helm, right? Um, but it does feel like it'd be too obvious for Harry to be the Green Goblin now. I'll say I love that the Green Goblin is not a mutant in this
mhm,
version. That's a fine interpretation. Again, to talk about subjectivity in relationship to these characters, to me, the armored get up is Green Goblin. Like you could add stuff with the armor and the futuristic glider, but the mutant thing, not really my bag. So I'm just
mhm.
glad that this is this version of the Green Goblin, or whatever the name is going to be called.
For anyone confused, in the previous Ultimate line, Green Goblin was it was still his mind. He was still awful, but he took like a serum that turned him into like a big actual ogre goblin type thing. So it is nice. It's that theme again that you kind of mentioned at the beginning where it's different enough yet familiar enough so that you can get excited but kind of trust in whatever direction it's heading to.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we see him there's not necessarily we if we zoom in it's like Mark we don't really
I
get any
didn't even catch that.
oh my god okay we
Great
have the actual
eye.
version it's like OSB STRK Mark 004 so OSB Stark STRK maybe so maybe it's like
I think it's OSB Stark, Osborne
okay
Stark. Yeah.
Osborne Stark so maybe they were working on a project together we don't know so it's sort of Stark armor Osborne armor and it could be a whole thing where the Ben and Jonah are trying to discover who really was behind the bombings not Stark so maybe there's a whole thing where Harry knows, and it's any possibilities. But that's kind of
Mhm.
that page where he's gliding away after he exploded a car that the Kingpin was in. And we cut to the bar with no name, which is a very famous bar in Marvel comics. But I think for here, it's just a regular bar.
It's
And
a bar
it's
with no name.
a bar with no
Yeah,
name.
which is a
And
very cute touch.
it's a very cute touch. And can I be very frank? Can I be very frank
Yes.
with you?
Yeah.
I think.
I think they're gay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
No, I got the vibe.
it's not that they're gay. I think that Ben is very sad and lonely, and that Jonah could help him feel warm again. I
I've
think
seen Grace and Frankie. I know where this goes.
it just becomes Grace and Frankie, but
That
there's
would
no women,
be
there's no Grace and
incredible.
Frankie. It's just the guys.
It's just the boys.
It's just the boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very much them hanging out in the bar. That it's clear they've had like such a strong rapport after years, and they kind of talk about like, oh, we're gonna start up our own new newspaper. We're gonna start our own news source. Uh, and I think it's interesting that Ben is like, we're gonna tell the truth. And when Jonah says the truth, he like laughs at him, like this big comic laugh where it's like big bold letters. And I think it's interesting that Jonah kind of says, in this entire universe, there's only one thing I know for sure, and that there's no truth in the news and no news in the truth. And that's such like an old. I feel like I could hear like an old news. It just fits so well for his character, you know.
Mhm.
It's again, that's so interesting that they're gonna start a news thing together, and they're gonna skirt the news, what isn't the news, and Ben says, "Okay, we just don't lie. We're gonna report news, but we're not gonna lie."
They should kiss. Hmm.
I think it's a funny. There is a fun little thing because earlier John was like, "I'm gonna tie my tie on you, but I need it back." And you can see that while he's saying hi to them, he just slowly hands back Jonah's tie, and Jonah's like,
Oh,
"Oh
yeah.
yeah, it's very
I
sweet."
I love that so much. It's just like 'cause that feels like again, talk about, like, this more cinematic quality of this. That does feel like something you'd see in a movie where it's not commented on, but it's a choice the actors and the directors made. And you just
Mhm.
like, if you're looking at it, you understand the relationship between these characters. Like, okay, just like, "Yeah, da, 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 da." I think one of my favorite examples of something like that is, you ever seen The Social Network?
Ooh, no, I have not. I'm
Okay, well,
sorry.
it's
I'm
it's the
sorry.
opposite effect of this, but both characters go to grab a beer.
Mhm.
The Jesse Eisenberg, Mark Zuckerberg character grabs a beer for himself. The Eduardo Sanchez character, played by Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, a Spider-Man,
Oh my gosh,
goes
Spider
to
Man.
goes to the fridge to pick up a beer for himself and Mark Zuckerberg.
Mhm.
So that tells you immediately that the relationship of those two characters. It
Yeah.
tells you everything about how they're gonna act, you know? And
Mhm.
this feels like the inverse of that. It's just a very nice, like, okay, yeah, like don't even mention like literally don't mention it. It's just a thing because they care about each other.
Mhm. And
So
it's very
yeah.
much telling their relationship without doing too much, and I love
Yeah.
that. And they kinda talk
Mhm.
like, "Oh," I think it's very funny. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna start a news business," and he's like, "Do you want a job?" And Peter's like, "Do you have money?" And Jonas is like, "Oh, that's a 2-day problem." And he kinda just leaves him and Ben to talk. And we have another conversation between Ben and Peter, which I think is interesting because a lot of this comic is dedicated to sort of introducing our relationship to Ben and Peter. And I think that's important because it's such a big new thing to this version of the character, you know?
I have to really quick mention,
Oh, mention it.
Eduardo Saverin is the guy's name from Social Network. I
Okay,
fucked
gotcha,
that
gotcha.
up. That's Andrew Garfield's character. It was a
Gotcha.
real person. I yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to clear that up before I lose any of my street cred.
No, it's okay. But I think it's interesting because Peter's like, how do you just flip a dime and do something? And Ben is like, my wife's dead. You have a family. I can't be in that industry like that. And he's like, what's going on, Peter? And Peter kind of opens his heart and he's like, I love the what I'm doing, but I what does he say? He says, for the longest time, I thought something was wrong with my life, Ben, that something was wrong with me. I can't really explain it, but I know that I've been right all along and I don't know what to do. And it's we'll talk about it in a minute because if you're a reader reading this for the first time, you're like, how do you know you're wrong? What are you talking about? But I think this is very he's having sort of like a midlife crisis right now.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very another again another real thing. Thanks, Jonathan Hickman. I have a perpetual crisis, but it's very
Yeah, maybe I relate to the younger quarter life crisis feeling a little
we're
bit
having our
for
quarter
no
life
reason in
crisis.
particular. Definitely not lately.
No, but he kind of goes
Not time to
back.
get into all that.
No, we don't, we it would be hours. But it's funny because I always feel like Peter's a rambler, and the way Ben is being set up here is that he says what he says and he means what he means, and he doesn't need a paragraph to do it. And he says to Peter, he's like, "Have you ever heard the saying inaction is action?" He says, "Well, that's just a garbage way of saying don't spend your life waiting for something to happen. Make it happen." And then Peter just looking at him awestruck, and he's like, a very cute moment. Ben's like, "Oh, I love you, son, but if you're walking around half asleep, uh, and that's fuck, I can't speak. Oh no." And Thena says,
Anesthetized.
Anesthetized.
That is a strong word.
He's an old man with an old vocabulary, and I'm gonna beat him up for making me say
No, no,
anesthetized.
no, I'm not gonna go with this anti-intellectual, um, non
He's an
like
old newspaper
extracurricular
guy.
vocabulary bullshit. It's a normal word. Sorry.
I've never
I'm
heard
just I
anyone use it. I've never heard anyone use
It's a real word. It's fine. It's like
it.
plethora. Plethora is my favorite word. I don't get the chance to use it often, but I love when I do. You know what I mean? Like it's fine.
Use it in a sentence.
I'm sorry. I'm just defensive about this because I remember there was this whole discourse last year when one of the actors from Succession mentioned something was dramaturgically interesting, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's so pretentious." It's like he's a fucking Broadway actor. It's a normal word. Like
For Broadway actors.
for people, it's fine. Everyone has access to dictionaries. Read one once in a
It's just
while.
like,
There's a lot of cool shit in
you know
there.
what? I'm gonna take Ben's thing and flip it. Why do this big superfluous thing when you can fuck? I used a big word. Whatever. Why make it
Yeah.
big?
Why make him gay? You're
why
homophobic?
not? Why not? He should kiss Jonah.
You
But,
should.
but let's move past this. Ben's like, I'm sorry you're going through some shit, Peter, but get your shit together and do it. But we cut back to later. I guess they live in an apartment. Peter gives his daughter a kiss and he goes to check on his son, Richard. And Richard is reading The Tale of Two Cities, an unedited all year round edition. Have you ever read The Tale of Two Cities? As I read this, I realize I've never read it.
Really, I did read it
Is it any good?
because everyone else read it in high school, and I was like, I should probably read that. And then I heard Nolan's Dark Knight Rises was sort of inspired by Tale of Two Cities, and then I read that, and then I saw Dark Knight Rises, and I was like, I don't see it, but whatever. um,
I think it's funny
but
that
yes,
Peter kind of roasts his son. He's like, you're a ridiculous person, right? And he's like, yeah, you made me this way, Dad. I'm fine. And oh my gosh, Peter's like, the kids are down. And MJ's like, oh, you know what that means. And it's very cute because she's like, okay, spill it. And they kind of have an adult human conversation where Peter's kind of talking about feeling things are off, they're unfulfilled. They have this whole conversation, and I don't know if I was MJ, I would kind of be like, it's indicative of how much she loves and trusts him because she's like, I know you'll do what's best for our family, so I'm not gonna do anything. But if I was MJ, I'd be like, are you gonna try to cheat on me? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is happening? Because he's skirting around like I need to change as a person.
Mhm.
And I think it's a testament to their relationship that she's like, all right, change whoever you need to. And is it going to change anything between us? And he's like, no. And she's like, okay, I'm good. And I kind of like
Mhm.
that. But what do you think of this kind of conversation they have? It's a couple pages, but what's your thoughts on
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. It's a very mature conversation, and she just straight up asked, "Is it going to change things between us?" No, not going to mess up the family. No,
it?
then okay, do what you have to do. You know.
Start
Um.
selling crypto. Start trading it,
Yeah,
Peter.
no,
That's what you wanted to
no. That's like a Mysterio plot or something.
do.
Like they have to make sure to continue fleshing out MJ as a character because like we don't know that much about her yet. We only know about Peter by the end of this, which is fine. It's the first issue. There's an ensemble cast like filled out already. So now I would like to learn more about what she's got going on. Is she an actress in this world? Is she a director? That's always the direction I wanted her to take.
I
Did I
think
completely miss something?
it mentioned I'm going back to the last page. She said
Mhm.
when I quit to start my business last year, you're 100% on board. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure what she did before, but she's a small business owner, I guess.
Yeah.
But she
Okay.
could have
So
been a
we
model
got to
actress
see.
before. Maybe that's what she quit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like I want to see more of that because to talk about like how Uncle Ben sort of like stopped becoming a person. He
Mm,
became like an idea, like a mythological entity
mm,
more than a human being. I think a lot of these comic book characters can kind of fall into that trap.
mm,
So this is me being wary because of the failures of comic books of the last couple decades. This
mhm.
is not a problem with this individual book so far.
Yeah,
And I
you're just
don't think it's
looking out
going to
for it.
be. Yeah, I'm like so traumatized, I'm like triggered or I'm like fucking got my dukes up. I'm like, fucking, okay, no, we're good. Okay, okay, we're good. Like, no, alternate universe, multiverse. Okay, we're fine. We're fine.
It's
We're
alternate
fine.
universe. Change can actually be permanent.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Just make sure, just make sure. Tony Stark reference. Whoa,
No, no,
whoa,
no,
whoa.
no, no,
You
no.
know, like we'll get there.
And
But yeah, I think it's very sweet
mhm,
and touching. And
love it.
boy, does it make those last couple pages hit hard.
Oh my gosh, let's get into it. MJ is like, whatever you got to do, I trust you. Good night, Tiger. Go get him. And Peter grabs that silver orb we saw his daughter playing with earlier, her fushigi, and his dramatic ass goes up to the top of their apartment complex. And we get a flashback to last night. He's on his computer. He's updating his letterbox when suddenly a little device appears. Peter Parker. This is for Peter Parker, and Parker touches it. And I'm reminded that this is a superhero comic because a hologram of a young Tony Stark pops out, and I say that because this whole comic has just been so grounded, down to earth person that I was like, oh shit, right? He's Spider Man. They gotta go fight someone in spandex. I forgot. But Tony Stark gives a big speech that, hey, I'm sending to you this. I'm recording this 6 months ago. There's this, and he gives basically everything that was smushed at the beginning. He gives to the audience right now. He says,
Mhm.
"Guess what? There's this bad guy, the Maker. He ruined your life. You were supposed to get bit by a spider years ago, but we're trying to fight back." And I think it's interesting because we've been wondering, like, what is Peter? What did he miss out on? What is happening? And then Tony Stark says, "Peter, you're supposed to protect the innocent, save lives, and inspire the citizens of this world to be their best selves. And instead, all of that was taken from you." And then we cut back from that flashback to Peter, and he's continuing what he said. He said, "Those people stole your future. Those people robbed you of your destiny. The question is, do you want it back?" Okay, thoughts so far before we get to the final page, or should we just get to the final page?
Skip to the final page because I think we can talk about all this at once.
Yes. You're so smart. Uh, Peter
I have my
takes.
moments.
You have them constantly. That's called time. Peter
Thank you.
opens up the ball, and there's a spider in it. And Peter kind of quietly says, "I want it." And there's a bit of a flashback. He's having like flashes, more cinematic moments where it's Ben like, "Wake up, MJ, go get him, Tiger." And Peter lets the spider bite him, and it's this dark silhouette as he like dons this suit, and birds are flying, and it's like the dawn. It's the morning. It's the dawn of a new age, dawn of a new Spider-Man. And it's like, ooh, that speech from Tony to Peter just works on so many different levels in so many different ways. Please talk because I need a second. Ugh.
Before I complain, this goes crazy hard. I'm picking up the next issue day one. The bummer that Tony Stark just is just part of Spider-Man history now. Again, this is a very specific set of circumstances that brought it here. It is fundamentally in this universe shown as a wrong that has to be righted, not a natural order of this character's history. So again, my hang up, I can put it aside. Two, has anyone else seen Matrix Resurrections?
I haven't. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, watch every Matrix movie because they're all great.
I've seen the
The
first
third
and
one
third
made me
one.
cry.
Oh wait,
The
no, I
third one
didn't
made me
ever see
cry
the
when I
third
saw it last time.
one.
Um, but Matrix Resurrections is very similar. I can just it's not a spoiler because it's the premise of that movie,
Uh-huh.
but it's like Neo, the Keanu Reeves character, is like he's just living a normal life, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And that's like the premise of the movie. It's like, oh well, they took what was supposed to be your inspirational story and like distorted it and made it something to control other people. They took this Spider-Man story, they took his future and have shaped the world in their image, right? We haven't seen the extent of that. Maybe things are just normal in our real world sense, which are not good either, for the record. The status quo is not quo. Um, but it's Matrix Resurrections vibes. And I think that movie is incredible. So this is nothing but positive stuff for me now. Yeah, this last couple of like pages, these panels go fucking bananas hard. It is the most hype I have been reading a mainstream comic book since Peter Parker got his body back at the end of Superior Spider-Man,
Which was
which is a
really good. I loved
which
it.
is great. It's a controversial run, but the end of that run is like legendary good.
It just it
It's the
oh my
last good
gosh.
Dan Slott thing.
And now he's back, and I'm upset because they never should have brought
Oh,
Superior
sorry.
Spider-Man back. I don't. It was a
No.
good 30 issue. He had a. I back to
Yeah,
back to Ultimate.
sorry.
Okay,
Just to this one, just Ultimate. Yeah.
the idea that your future was robbed from you by people with greater stand power than your own, and the willingness to make that choice to fight to get it back is something I feel like is going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, I can't
Resonate.
imagine why.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah.
Oh.
Everything's
It's
great.
just it's everything's wonderful. We're not in the Matrix ourselves. It's just so beautiful. The page is wonderful. As Spider-Man rises, the dawn comes, morning is here, a new age of Spider-Man in this universe. And it's just I am being sold on this promise, on this idea. I am sold. I'm so excited to grab it. The only comic I've ever like consistently bought was a Miles Morales run and Superior Spider-Man run. So this is gonna be the second. This is gonna be the third time where I've like actually picked up the Peter Parker comic. This is gonna be a Spider-Man comic. I'm very excited. And it's
And
so
I'm
good. It's so
I'm sure you've heard, but for other people that maybe haven't heard,
good. Mhm.
Jonathan Hickman notoriously talked about a long time never writing a Spider-Man comic book.
Mhm.
And then like a year ago, he was like, I'm writing something that I swore I'd never do,
Oh,
but
I do remember that. I do remember that now.
yeah.
Give me a second.
And then now he's come out and said like he's having the time of his life writing it basically, and he'll continue writing it until he stops. And I think that's basically how it should go. It's Spider-Man. It's not gonna underperform, you know? So he let him just run this shit. Let him run it. Let's burn out instead of fade away, baby. Let's fucking till the wheels come off for this
I
thing.
I did see something funny where people were like, "Oh, don't forget to buy this comic so Marvel knows this is what we want." And I just thought like, "Baby,
No, they don't care.
It's Spider-Man and Jonathan. First of all, they don't care. Second of all,
Yeah.
it's Jonathan Hickman and Spider-Man. Have you seen the art? People are gonna buy it. It's you don't need to
Yeah.
promote this book. First of all, nobody needs to
There
promote anything from Marvel. Don't do that.
isn't the EIC of Marvel like a guy who pretended to be Japanese?
Oh
Like they don't
yeah,
care.
they don't care.
Sorry. Maybe that stops me from ever working on a Spider-Man comic,
You
but
wanna like even stuff like Echo. I want to be excited about. Don't give Marvel the credit. Don't say yay
no.
Marvel. Say yay the creators behind it that pushed for that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, say thank you, Jonathan Hickman.
Thank you, Jonathan Hickman.
In fact, you should stop buying every other Marvel comic book. Unless there's like really good stuff I'm missing. I'm sure there's just good stuff out there. Support the other stuff. But like, yeah, this is the shit. This was the shit. It was the best. It was like it felt like coming home reading this a little bit, you know what I mean?
This
It was
really
like,
was
okay,
Spider-Man
maybe
Homecoming.
uh killing myself. Maybe, maybe I'm not gonna move back in,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna stick around for a little bit, see what's changed,
Yeah.
see what's going on.
You're not gonna get in the pool, but you're gonna stick your feet in and check the temperature.
Yeah, and who knows? If I'm having a good enough time, I'll jump in.
Yeah, you'll jump in. Maybe run in
Yeah.
and grab some swim shorts and then jump back in. But
No,
yeah.
just in my clothes.
Oh,
I forgot my shorts.
oh my gosh. I'm just gonna go over it really quickly. Uh,
Yeah.
Ultimate Spider-Man in February. Ultimate Black Panther is coming out in February, and Ultimate X-Men is coming out in March. So those are just I would just want to if anyone stuck around this long, just I might pick up Black Panther just because Storm's in it and she's a Kenyan freedom fighter and I like her design. But I'm definitely picking up Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men. Love Peach Momoko. But yeah, what are your general thoughts about this comic, Diego? Just a general wrap up. Like if you were telling someone at a party like about the comic, like what would you tell them?
they made another good Spider-Man comic. It took, like it took a decade, but they did it. They
They
brought it
did it. They
back.
finally did it.
They finally fucking did it, and all it took was one of the top 5 greatest living comic book writers to right the ship a little bit. We're not even all the way home, but we're starting to right the ship. And who knows, maybe the ship will sink someday.
Mhm.
Maybe it will explode and kill everyone on board.
I mean,
For
like
but
Bendis got Spider-Man and then Miles Morales. He got them for like 12 years. Like he wrote that character all over like go, go, go. So I'm fine with 10 years of Hickman Spider-Man. I'll be here for it.
yeah, no, me too, honestly. And it's like, look, I'll be honest. I don't think I'll pick it up every month. Like I just and I'm sure
You're not gonna pick up
at
the
some point
monthlies?
I'll miss like half a year or whatever. Like let's say hypothetically Hickman gets a 10-year run on this, which would be awesome. Because if anyone deserves 10-year runs on stuff, it's him.
Mhm.
Um, but I see myself like picking up like the volumes later and like
Mhm.
just breezing through because it's fucking Jonathan Hickman writing Spider-Man. You know, like the next best guy to write a Spider-Man comic book would be Greg Weisman. They would never be smart enough to do that. Oh, wait, they are, and they did. So I have that to look forward to as well.
Oh
It's a
wait,
very good year for me.
with Miles and Peter, right? He's doing like a team up.
Yep, it's a spider duo
Ooh,
book.
I'm
I
gonna
don't know
pick that
what
up.
the mythology, if that's another universe thing. I don't care. I'm there
Oh, it's in
for
universe.
Greg
It's in
Weisman.
universe.
It's in universe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, cool, cool.
Which is funny
It'll
because
be a bummer to be like read
mhm.
Avengers number 758
Oh
to
man.
understand what that last page was about. But it's Greg Weisman writing Spider-Man again. That's pretty great.
Oh yeah, I know all the spectacular Spider-Man people were like, ah, he's back. They're excited.
Yep.
I was happy for all of them. But
Yeah. Go
yeah,
watch Spectacular Spider-Man.
it's on Disney Plus, right? I can watch that.
I don't think it is anymore. I think they took it off.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe it
I'll
is.
look
I
it
don't
up
know.
after
You
talking
should
about
all
it.
watch it.
Or pirate it. They don't need my money. Not that
It's
I would
26.
never ever approve of
You gave
pirating.
me DVDs for a birthday present. Do you want to borrow the present you gave
I
me?
have nothing to play them on.
You don't have a DVD or Blu-ray player?
Mm.
Don't you have a PlayStation or an Xbox?
I have an old 360 I haven't booted up in about 8 years. I could try turning it on.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, I'll try it.
Okay.
But I would say if you've never read a Spider-Man comic, grab it. If you're even interested in the idea, grab it. And oh my gosh, I don't even know. I just say grab it. I have no way. If somebody asked me about this comic, I would just say just pick it up. I'll lend you my copy. I'll give you my Marvel. Every issue of Marvel comes with like a digital code, so you have physical and digital. I'd be like, I'll give you my account. You can read it on my digital account. You can just read it. But
You
yeah,
could do that. You could also
pirate it.
probably just find it online somewhere.
Not that I would
Um,
ever condone
Not that I
pirating.
encourage that.
I would
I'm
never
just
condone
saying
pirating.
if you were to look for it, you probably would find it. I didn't do that. I'm just saying it's not that hard these days. Um,
It's not. It's really not.
I have mixed feelings because it's like, yeah, it's like it's Marvel. They don't need any more money.
It's Spider Man. They
But if
don't
you're
need any
gonna
more
give them
money.
money, this is one to give it to.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Diego, where can people find you?
um, don't. No, you could find me mostly on Twitter.
Mhm.
I'm not shit posting as much anymore, but I am posting more of my photography on Twitter at the Diego Crespo and on my Instagram at Diego Crespo Grams, and of course at my podcast, The Waffle Press, where I do the monthly hangouts with my buddy Gene and guests, and the
Ooh, that's
retrospective with my
awesome.
buddy Matt Garingo.
Oh my god, gringo.
So that stuff's all fun.
That is fun.
Yeah, you hopped on for an episode.
I've been on 3 times. I
Yeah,
counted.
you
I looked
have.
at mine.
No, no, you helped with our live subscribe-a-thon.
You interrupted me while I was playing Genshin Impact, and I felt embarrassed.
Oh,
But
well, it's fine.
you can find
It's
me writing letters to Jonathan Hickman, telling him that he should let Jonah and Ben kiss. But aside from that, you can find me at Noah is Garcia on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. You can check out my photography at Noah Garcia_photography. I'm probably gonna change that soon to something snappier. And you can find me here on this YouTube channel. And that's it.
Goodbye, Jonathan Demme.